Chapter 14 The Western Lands, Sometime Later. Tom and the Crow travelled west as the sky darkened. The landscape around them had changed again. From the northern firs and snows beyond the gate, they had followed the map as best they could and finally travelled into another forest. This was not like the pine and fir forest of before. Here were oak and beech trees, rounded little hills and streams. There was a warm wind and a strong golden late sunlight, and it was thirsty work just walking. Tom had to refill his empty stone ginger beer bottle often, as well as his water canteen from one of the rushing roadside streams. Once, as Tom drank, Jollity the Crow settled for the first time on his shoulder. Tom felt suddenly proud that the Crow should trust him enough to sit on him, and they walked on for a while with the Crow bobbling happily up and down on Tom's shoulder. "Crows get tired too," said the Crow after a while. "It's getting dark, Tom. I think we should rest up for the night. You've walked a long way, and you couldn't get all the way back home now, even if you've tried. We've come many, many leagues, I should think." Home seemed a very distant place now, somewhere far back among all those dark trees. An owl hooted from somewhere in the woods, and Tom felt a little twinge of panic, of fear. Where would they spend the night? He was tired now himself. Oh, he yawned and stretched his arms out so that the Crow flew suddenly up in the air with a surprised squawk. "Goodness me! I was falling asleep too," said the Crow. "We must find somewhere to rest right now. Come on." Tom settled himself under a canopy of leaves and welcoming branches. He rested his head on the travel satchel, said good night to the Crow, and was surprisingly soon asleep. "Must be all that walking," he thought to himself as he drifted off. The Crow flew around the woods while Tom slept, and eventually found the hooting owl sitting on its home branch deep among the trees. He gave a secret and urgent message to the owl, then flew back and settled himself to sleep on one of the branches overlooking Tom. The owl passed on the message to another owl, who passed it on to another, and so on all the way down the line until by the next morning, when old Mr. Cicero Brownfield was out in the eastern forest, the message finally reached him. "Tom is safe and watched and in the west," was the gist of it, with a few bird elaborations about wind speed, night hunting, and so forth. Cicero reported the news to the master over a nice cup of fresh acorn coffee. "So far so good," said the master, "but let's keep our ears to the ground, Mr. Cicero, just for safety's sake."